Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on our webinar this morning. We've got over 130 people already dialed in, which is fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join myself and Simon this morning. We know that last year we created our wellness charter, and that was created by people from across our business with the vision of wellness for all. Our wellness charter has 8 dimensions in it, and over the last few weeks, as we're working our way through the challenges that we're dealing with at the moment, we've been focusing on 4 of those, and they're emotional, mental health, physical, and also thinking about the work environment that's changed for a lot of people, whether they're out in frontline operations still delivering services for us, or we're working at home with all the challenges that that brings. Over the next 5 weeks, we'll be putting on a webinar every Friday morning on different subjects. The first 2 are on wellbeing that will be led by Simon. Following those, we'll have webinars on change, on nutrition, on sleep, and also financial wellbeing. And we've got a suite of financial wellbeing support that we'll be sharing with you over the next couple of weeks as well. We know that these are challenging times, and we're really keen to support you in every way that we can. So if there's other areas that you think we can help you with or you want us to look into, please do let us know. Feel free to email me personally if you'd like to, or share it with Anthony Dursden, who's leading on wellbeing for us in the organisation. So this morning we've got Simon Richardson with us. Simon comes with a wealth of credentials. He's over 30 years experience in health and education sectors. He's worked as a qualified nurse in mental health, both in hospitals and out in the community. And he's got extensive experience in counselling and facilitating positive approaches to physical and mental health. So we're really, really great to have him on board and to be partnering with him. And thank you for our colleagues in the North East who sent him our way, having had some of the mental health training that he provided up in the North East, so thank you. Over the last few weeks, Simon has very generously worked with Anthony and people in our communications team to create us some information around mental wellbeing. First being a guide to emotional resilience, and more recently 5 videos looking at the 5 areas of wellness. Hopefully you'll have been able to take the opportunity to find some time to look at those. But if you haven't done so already, please do take a look. They're only short videos of 5 minutes or so. And I know that I have personally found them really, really helpful to find that 5 minutes of me time in an otherwise very, very busy life that we're all leading at the moment. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Simon for the session, and I hope you enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Okay, thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Tracy. That's a lovely introduction, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, no doubt. I'm really impressed with the way that Sue is kind of taking on board this wellness agenda, and everyone seems to be on board with it. It's lovely to be talking about mindfulness, and this ties in with actually ties in with one of the videos that I did previously on Take Notice, very much around the importance of being in the present moment. So we've entitled this is part 1 of 2. Part 2 will be next week, and this is just to think about some of the things around mindfulness, some of the benefits that are there, but the benefits of being, not doing. But we want to make this kind of as experiential as we possibly can. And so what I'd like to do is start with an exercise. And what I'd like us to do is to say hello to our breath. Now, I'm going to run you through a very brief meditation, just a simple breath meditation. And this is something that you can actually build into your daily life. And it takes a matter of minutes. So if you would indulge me, and I'll invite you now to kind of just think about your posture, think about how you're sitting in the chair that you're in. Get both feet flat on the floor and just rest your hands in your lap. I want you to identify, adopt a kind of upright position. Don't be too stiff, but just a nice upright and dignified posture. Now, you might want to drop your gaze to an angle of about 45 degrees, or you might want to keep your eyes on me. It's entirely up to you. You might want to close your eyes, and that's okay as well. Now, just quickly scan your body. Just have a quick notice in your mind. Just go through your body and just notice any areas of tension. Notice where you're sitting, how you're sitting. Notice your feet on the floor. Is your back against the chair? Are you sat forward? Just become aware of some of the sensations that are around your body. You might allow yourself to feel a little bit of heaviness of your body. And just allow your body just to relax into the support of the chair. Bring your attention to your abdomen and allow your abdomen to relax and become soft. And let it stay soft. And now gather and collect your awareness on the sensations of your breath as it comes and goes. You're not trying to control your breathing in any way. You're just allowing your focus to be on your chest, perhaps around your nostrils, the top of your lip. Just let your attention settle and focus on where you feel the breath the most. This practice is about strengthening our attention and awareness. It's not about controlling our breath. And try and keep your focus just on your breath, letting go of thoughts about how many breaths, what the next breath is going to be like. If it helps, say in your mind, as you breathe in, I'm breathing in. And as you breathe out, say in your mind, I am breathing out. And try to stay present for the entire cycle of each breath, in and out. Each breath is different. Sometimes they can be shallow, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, sometimes deep. Each breath is unique. Each breath is here only once, and welcome each breath. And if you notice your mind wandering as you do this, don't be surprised, don't be annoyed with yourself. Just gently notice where your thoughts went, and then bring your attention back to that place where you felt that breath the most. Just stay with your breath for a few moments longer. And then gently open your eyes. Okay, everyone, thank you for doing that. Thank you for sort of taking just that couple of minutes just to notice your breath. Because if we start to think about what is mindfulness, we're going to talk about this sort of practice of meditation, and these terms sometimes get used interchangeably. But mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way. It means paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. We'll look a little bit later on about some of the things that maybe get in the way of our ability to do that, and thinking about sort of what we might need to do to achieve those things, to be able to live more mindfully. But mindfulness practice trains your nervous system to know itself better and interfere with itself less. And what is important to note is it is an inherent human capacity. This is something that we all possess. And it's something that we all use to some degree. Now, there are loads more definitions of what mindfulness is, and there are a whole host of books out there on mindfulness with CDs and all sorts that you can download. And I'm more than happy to kind of put a list together. That may be some of the questions that come through as we go through this. Where can I get more information, or what is a useful resource? So we'll put that together and send that out if people want that kind of thing. But why use mindfulness? What is it is of the moment, certainly, and you're probably hearing a lot about mindfulness and well, what are the benefits of it? Well, people that use mindfulness seem to be able to derive more fulfillment, physical and emotional pleasure. And actually, this is really, we're noticing more what is actually going on around us and within us, and we can get some real joy from that and real pleasure in our lives. It also helps to change habits. These have negative consequences. I'm going to talk a little bit later on about some of the depleting activities that maybe we engage in. And I noticed on the news today that it also talked about the increase of alcohol sales has actually gone up by 30%. There's lots of reasons for that, I'm sure, but that can be a very depleting activity. Now, we can change our habits through the use of mindfulness. We can also understand ourselves more deeply, who we are and what we are. And it can help us joyously to connect with other people. Again, one of the videos I did recently for Suez was about connecting and the importance of staying in touch and connecting virtually with people, or having these little conversations, these little windfall moments that we can have where we can chat with people. Mindfulness can help us do that and connect with people in a very powerful way. On a work front, because one of the questions that often comes up is, I haven't got the time to do this. Well, actually, it's been shown, and some of the science around this is really suggesting that those people that live more mindfully, their concentration is better. They're able to focus on their work a lot better and are, in fact, more productive. So this is well worth thinking about in terms of building this into your daily life. And really importantly, it can help us be free from physical and emotional suffering. Now, I'm going to sort of touch on this in a little while, this idea of suffering. But just take a moment, if you would, just to think about, as I'm saying these things, as I'm talking through these things, what are you noticing or sensing within your body right now in this very moment? Are you noticing anything? Are you comfortable, or are you tense? Are you curious about wanting to know more? Is the part of you that's saying, not sure about this. This isn't sitting with me. And there might be some sensation there. Now, there's no right or wrong in this. This is about our ability to notice the responses or the reactions that we're having. I've got to say, if we think about that word reaction, and I think this is the important thing about mindfulness, we kind of get that immediate reaction. Mindfulness can actually help us respond rather than react in certain situations. Now, I want to come back to this thing about suffering, this statement. This isn't going to free us from pain. Mindfulness will not remove pain. It will not remove some of the really terrible things that maybe go on in our lives, and indeed are going on in the world. A lovely expression that I came across some time ago was, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So if we think about that word suffering, are you suffering now? Are you worrying about the future? This is really present in a lot of people's minds, a lot of anxiety around what might be happening in the future. Some of you might be sitting there with regrets about the past. Some of you might be blaming yourself for the present situation that you're in. And I don't mean COVID-19 when I say that, but because we all have lives that are going on around this. You may be frustrated by what you don't have. And you actually may be really disappointed by what you've lost. So there are lots of causes for suffering and causes for this sort of response to things. And this comes down to our emotional or our evolution and genes, really. But we very often create these things in our own minds, our own brains. We get upset and suffer because of things, upset about our pain, angry about our sadness, and sad about our fear. I want to kind of touch on something that happened to me quite recently, because again, I slip into old models of being and old ways of thinking at times. I got out of bed, and as I sort of wandered to the door, I stubbed my toe. Well, actually, I tripped on some clothes that I'd actually left on the floor, and tripped and then hit my. It was chaos. It was chaos, and it hurt. The pain was there, and it really hurt. But then I noticed I was getting really annoyed with myself because, yeah, there again, I'd used it as a floor robe, and I should have hung my trousers up and put my slippers out of the way, and I wouldn't have tripped over them. And I could hear my wife's voice in my head saying, "Yes, you should have picked them up." I was upset about the pain and about the situation that had been created. Now, the pain was there, but being mindful of that and thinking about this suffering being constructed by the mind, I could then shift my way of thinking, my experience around that. I could think about this phrase. I mean, I've got some news for you on this slide, and there is some bad news here. The bad news is that nothing lasts forever. Now, that may be linked to issues around life. It may be issues that they're really big thing. Big things that are occurring. Nothing actually lasts forever. But along with that, there's some good news that nothing lasts forever. That pain that I had in my foot, it's not even a kind of hint of it now. It's gone. Yet I could get hung up on that feeling, that experience of it. Within mindfulness, very often we've got this thing. We are humans doing rather than humans being. And this is actually quite an important thing for us to kind of think about and explore just a little bit. How often are we on automatic pilot versus conscious choice? Now, automatic pilot can be really valuable. You know, we do things without thinking about it, thinking about going back to shoes that I leave on the floor or things like that I don't put away. My ability to kind of fasten my shoelaces up without any thought, without any kind of conscious thought, is really helpful. It lets me move along with my day. This automating of our habits means that we can get on with things. But if there's too much automation within our lives, that might result in us missing out on things, missing out on the sensations that are all around us. Actually noticing as I fasten my shoelace, that sensation of holding the lace, the tightness of the shoe around my foot. It might stop me as I dash from one place to the next about noticing the beautiful weather, the smells, the sensations that are all around me. I might be removed out of being fully conscious or fully engaged in the experience that I'm having. If we start to use mindfulness, we can move away from this idea of being on automatic pilot all of the time to a place of choice. Now, we also have analyzing versus sensing. How often do we experience the things that we are experiencing? Or do we think about them? Do we constantly go over these things in our mind about how things ought to be? And this kind of links to something else that's going to come up. If we can start to sense and be curious about the experiences that we're having, It's a really important way of making us feeling considerably better in our lives and our experiences with other people. And very often we are striving for so much. We are exploring and thinking about the real world, not as how it is, but how we would like it to be, rather than accepting it as how it is. Now, this accepting, when I started to look at mindfulness some time ago, I mean, I've been looking at meditation and mindfulness actually since I got made redundant, and it really helped me move on from that place that I was in. I struggled with acceptance. I really struggled with this idea of, oh, I just have to accept. I just have to be resigned to how things are. Well, acceptance doesn't mean that. Acceptance just means about acknowledging the experience as it is in this present moment and being curious about what I'm experiencing and maybe observing my experience and thinking about my experience and the things that are happening with me in a curious, compassionate, and non-judgmental way. Very often we can see our thoughts as being very solid. You know, I think, therefore I am. When actually a lot of these thoughts that we are having are mental events. They are transient mental events, and we will move on from them. And I think that's actually really important that we start to think about what our thinking is like and notice some of the negative things that might be creeping in. And can we then reframe the situation in a little bit differently? Can we think about avoidance versus approaching? Now, there's a very practical thing on here. I get traffic. I travel quite a bit. Well, I did travel quite a bit. I listen to traffic alerts, and I definitely want to avoid any traffic jams if I can. Yeah, but this is really about thinking about some of the emotional experiences that we are having at any given time. And we can spend a lot of energy avoiding those difficult, challenging emotions. I don't think we have any difficulty moving towards those emotions that are positive and make us feel happy. But actually, we will push away from those things that make us feel negative, make us feel sort of uncomfortable. Mindfulness can help us move towards exploring what might be going on in relation to our experience. It's not about running away from issues and running away from our emotion. It's about moving towards it and engaging with that emotion. I think very often we can have mental time travel. We can go back to how things ought to be. And I often say, listen out for those thoughts that you're having, the shoulds and the oughts. I would describe that in my sort of clinical background. We talk about critical parent. You can hear that critical parent in your voice, in your mind, telling you how things ought to be. And, 6 months ago, this was great, or what will it be like in 6 months' time? Rather than just experiencing what we are experiencing in the moment. That mental time travel kind of takes us back to the suffering. And thinking about the activities that we do, the depleting activities versus some of the nourishing activities that we can do. And actually, this goes back to conscious choice. This goes back to the choices that we can make as we explore mindfulness, as we think about that breathing exercise. That's a nourishing activity. One of the things that often comes back time and time again when we look at this and we talk about this is that I haven't got the time to do it. Actually, it's really interesting when I think about the time, the more that I build mindfulness practice into my daily life, I actually find I've got more time to do the things that I need to do. And I think that's because my focus, my ability to engage with the activity is so much better. Mention some of the depleting activities, and if anyone had a chance to look through the well-being thing that we did together with Sue, was thinking about procrastination, about avoiding activities, about alcohol, about the diet that we can kind of slip into. We really need to think about how do we kind of live in the moment and make that a more nourishing activity. And as we move on from that, as we start to think about our experience within mindfulness, we need to be open to the experience of it. Now, we've got Sift here. This was developed by a guy called, Dr. Daniel Siegel, and he talks about Sift. He talks about the sensations, the images, the feelings, and the thoughts that we have. Mindfulness helps us become more alert to those experiences that we are having, the sensations within our bodies, the mental images that we create, the feelings that we have, the emotions that we have, and the thinking that we're having. Now, he also talks about call and actually using call to think about Sift. This starts to get really complicated and really interesting, the amount of acronyms he uses. But if we start to think about the sensations, the images that we're creating, the feelings that we're having, if we approach them with curiosity, openness, acceptance, and love, and I think this is important, this love is really important. This idea of self-compassion, I think, is vital. I think at times we're our harshest critics. And if we think about maybe being a little bit more compassionate with ourselves, a little bit more curious about what we are experiencing, how we're experiencing it, and do that with openness and do that with acceptance. And again, that acceptance being not resignation, oh, I just feel rubbish, so it's all rubbish, I'll just have to accept it and move on. Just actually think, well, that's how it is for now. This is what I'm feeling right now in this moment. If we do that, if we start to think about that, it might actually change our experience of our Sift, of our sensations, of the images, of the feelings, of the thoughts that we are having. Now, this has been a whistle-stop tour into an introduction into mindfulness and some of the key concepts within it. I'm going to invite you over this next week to kind of keep coming back to that brief breath meditation that we did at the beginning, to just think about that experience, and you can jot things down, you can journal that experience if you want to. That's entirely up to you. It may be that you're going to be able to create some time in your day and you're just going to be able to sit outside. If you're lucky enough to have a garden as I am, I know this afternoon I'm going to take some time just to notice and experience what my garden is like and the impact that has on me. Thank you so much for your attention, and thank you so much for inviting me to do this talk. I'm really looking, will there be a little bit more experiential stuff next week as well. We'll explore this in a little bit more detail, and we'll look at some of the key 7 pillars of mindfulness. So I hope you found that useful. Be great if you could leave us some questions or suggestions and we will respond to those. So Tracy, thank you very much for inviting me along to do this.
Thanks, Simon. If anyone's got any questions, if you want to just sort of pop them into the chat, we're happy to answer some of those. We've got a couple in there, which I'm happy to help and answer. Okay, because we now can't have our face-to-face mental health training that we've been rolling out within the organisation, and we had a commitment to, will it not be happening this year? Well, absolutely, we want to find the means and methods to rolling out that awareness of first aid for mental health training. So still very much committed to that. Hopefully some of the work we've been doing with Simon contributes to that as well. And we've been working with Simon, and he's been creating an online ability to deliver some of that training. I think my view is ideally it's training that's better to be in the room, but we're going to do a pilot, an online pilot of that in the next few weeks. Anthony's working to arrange that with Simon, So watch this space on that one. But our commitment to rolling out the mental health training and resilience training that I think is very, very important in this space is still very much in place. Let me just have a look. Okay. So we're talking about financial well-being. We know in SUAS at the moment, with regards to our people, and people furlough, they're retaining their pay at the moment, and we're looking into what will be happening in that space next. But we know that people live with people and have partners who might have been really severely affected financially by the current situation. I'm very cognizant of that. And so we've got a package of support and information available around that. So we'll be sending out a guide and also putting in some other support. So you'll be able to, through a new approach that we're having in a provider called My Wages, which will allow you to get advances on your salaries through there, access to loans that you might not otherwise be able to secure. And also we've got a webinar around that planned as well. So lots, hopefully, to be able to provide you with some good information and direct you to support around financial well-being. Okay, are we able to invite staff that are furloughed onto these sessions? Yes, absolutely. So staff who are on furlough are not allowed to do work for SUAS or to generate income or sales for SUAS or any accompanied or associated organisations with SUAS. But they absolutely can do a range of things. They can do training, they can access wellbeing support, and they can volunteer. And we're really, really encouraging people who are on furlough to do one or more or all of those things. You know, they're very much still a part of SUAS, they're just on leave at the moment. So yes, very much able to join these sessions. And they will be recorded and we will be putting them up on the internet for them to access as well. See if there's anything else. Okay. Is there a recommended amount of time we should spend focusing on our mental health each day? Oh, I don't know whether Simon might be better to answer.
I think that's a great question, isn't it? I think that's really interesting in terms of what we were talking about in the mindfulness session about I'm going to allocate a particular length of time to this. I think it's about being sort of conscious of what we're experiencing all the time, and mental health and our physical health should be kind of uppermost in our minds all of the time. I think you can actually structure a day, and an example of my routine is I get up now 20 minutes earlier than I used to and do 20 minutes of meditation. So I used to sort of wake at whatever time. Now, whatever time I'm due to get up, I'll get up 20 minutes earlier and I'll do some meditation. I also take moments throughout the day just to kind of check in with myself about how am I feeling? What am I experiencing at this moment? So I'm not going to say to people, yes, you must do certain length of time, but I think just become more cognizant, more aware of what is actually happening to you at any given moment.
Okay. Another question, I think, for you, Simon. I'm not sure whether you need to just put your camera back on. I don't know whether everyone else can see you. But before I just sort of get to that, I think, you know, I always think with regards to your own well-being, you know, you can often be very distracted by making sure everybody else is okay. And, you know, it's very, very important to give yourself time to be well. You know, you're in a much better position to look after your family, your friends and your loved ones if you are well. You know, when you're on an aeroplane and the air goes, you're told to put your own mask on first. Absolutely. And that is for very good reason. So this question,
I do like some of the memes. Yeah, I was just going to say, Tracy, I do like one of the memes that I came across recently, and it says, you can't serve from an empty vessel. And I think that's really important, that we must look after our own well-being. And if we don't, we're going to end up feeling more stressed, we're going to feel more tense, and actually that then causes, it starts to exacerbate the problems that people feel. Yeah. But sorry, you were going to sort of lead into a question.
No,
there.
absolutely, it's fine. Just definitely another one for you, Simon. It says, it's interesting that you mentioned pain is inevitable, but suffering we can work with. The word pain is so emotive and means different things to different people, whether physical or emotional. I'm not sure I fully understand what you're meaning by pain.
Right. Pain can be, exactly, it can be about the emotional pain that we experience as well as physical pain. Yeah. And I think one of the things around this is grief. Grief, that is an intense emotional pain that people will experience, and it's kind of right that we do feel that, but we need to be conscious about how we then construct our mental reality around that, and the images that we create around that, and the thoughts and the feelings that we have. And there can be a tendency to, again, I'm going to use that term, critical parent, that word, that voice that's in our heads, the shoulds and the oughts, all of those things are kind of in there. People will experience pain, both physical and mental. What is really interesting, though, about physical pain, because mindfulness is now getting used along helping people cope with physical illnesses such as cancer. And there's actually shown to be beneficial in reducing the amount of pain relief that people need. So there is something going on that actually says, if we're more sort of open around this, if we're more open to the experience of it, that will reduce the pain and the suffering that we experience.
Okay, thank you, Simon. I think we've got through our questions. So just to let you know then about what next week's session is about. Simon's got control of the slide, so I'll wait for him to put that on.
Right. Okay. There we go.
Do you want to just give us an idea of what next week's session might be?
I'll just talk. Yeah, I'll just talk through that. Yeah, it's this second bit of deepening maybe our understanding of mindfulness. We can only give a brief overview of this in these sort of 25-minute, 30-minute talks. So we're going to think about some of the tools that we can use in everyday life, and something called the 7 pillars of mindfulness, and how we can maybe overcome some of the barriers to living more mindfully, because I'm pretty sure that there'll be a number of people in the audience will be saying, actually, I don't know how we build this in. I don't know how I build this into my sort of daily sort of being. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll have a little look at that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Simon. So a big thank you, Simon, for all the fantastic support that you've been giving us over recent weeks. I know we've built a partnership here with yourself, that I know will be enduring, and hopefully everyone will have got a lot out of today's sessions. As I say, do take the opportunity to look at the other 5 videos if you can find those few minutes during your busy days, and hopefully you'll be able to dial into our session next week. And do encourage other colleagues to dial in as well. We've had over 140 people join the session today, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Take care, stay safe, stay well. Thank you.
Thank you.